How do we start preparing for suicide prevention 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
The future.
And how can we envision and develop a pathway to a preferred future?
We should not be always playing catch up, but we should be trying to get ahead.
Imaging is a way to create a suspension of disbelief.
One of the things I can envision is that the mental health system is no longer run by mental health professionals. Dear Lord, wouldn't that be amazing?
There was a psychologist who said, what if our wildest dreams came true? What would you imagine? What would you want to be doing? Like, what if you could be unbelievably successful? What would that mean?
One of the things that is really key is that when we think about the future, we base the future on what's happening right now. And that tends to be a really poor predictor of the future.
How can we use that kind of thinking for suicide prevention? How can we literally turn the world sideways?
And when people start talking about wonderful things we could do, people lose their crap, sphincters tighten, and everything gets shut down.
When we use the term zero suicide, for instance, and I'm completely on board with zero suicide, but when you're in communities, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that there really could be zero suicide.
And I think one of the things that the big turning point for our field is going to be when we stop focusing on every single individual person and we start focusing on the cultural dynamics and the group dynamics that are driving suicide behavior and wellness.
So we need to be able to suspend disbelief. We need to be able to think about futures that are sort of preposterous.
Where is the actual target at? Are we missing something in between?
When we want to shape large human behaviors, we do environmental changes.
Correct.
And so most of our suicide prevention strategies have been changing how somebody acts in a really specific moment.
What if we're in the wrong space altogether?
And one of the pieces that we're missing is that people aren't connected and they're not seeing their doctor on a regular basis and they're not having their health attended to whenever they need it.
It is hard to fund a 20-year vision or 10-year vision when you're on a every other year funding cycle.
She just said something very important, people, about how funding streams impact ineffective planning for suicide prevention.
All you got to do is look at NASA.
And I think the key point here is that we have to remain flexible. We have to be adaptive. If we notice that something isn't working out the way that it should be, we can cut ties with it and start over. And that's what we have to do.
So how can we develop something that gets us 80% of the way there versus paralyzed because we don't have enough data and we're not exactly right and we're so risk adverse?
We need to do things that work, not things that are funded.